And you are live.
All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's 7 p.m. and welcome to the public board meeting. We're going to start out tonight with the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm really excited tonight to welcome our special guest who will lead us in the pledge. Meet Christopher Jolly. Christopher is a fifth grader at McGregor Elementary. And Christopher, go ahead and take it away.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks so much, Christopher. We appreciate you so much being here. We'll let you get back to your book club and to your baby. Is it a baby sister or baby brother?
Baby brother.
Baby brother, and you have a good rest of your Monday night.
Okay.
Thanks so much for being here.
Bye.
All right, let's take roll. Tonight, all members are present. And again, I'd like to welcome everyone who's joining us on Zoom or joining us on YouTube Live to our public meeting of the Board of Education. Again, this is a public meeting of board business. This is not a public hearing. However, we do have several ways for you to participate in tonight's meeting. As usual, you can request placement on the agenda, and that is through a form on our district website. Those requests have to be in by noon Wednesday prior to our meeting. And tonight we have 4 individuals who have requested to speak in that way. Otherwise, if you're in Zoom, you can go ahead and click the raise hand button. Once you click that button, you'll receive a form via chat that you'll need to fill out with your name and some information and just indicate what it is you want to speak about. We have public comment after all of our action items on the agenda, and we also have public comment at the end of the meeting. In addition, you can send us an email. There's a form again on the website, and all board members will see those emails. And I did want to mention one more thing that yes, we are still having virtual meetings. So in-person board meetings are still prohibited under the latest executive order related to the pandemic in Michigan. So until February 21st, the executive order specifically prohibits any type of gathering at a non-residential venue if it doesn't fall under one of several identified exceptions, and school board meetings are not one of those exceptions. So we are anxiously awaiting a return to in-person meetings when those are allowed. So first up on our agenda is Spotlight on Success. We start almost all of our regular board meetings with some sort of a spotlight on a program or a group of students. And so tonight we have Tiffany Galladay. And Tiffany, I'm going to let you take this away.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. I'm Tiffany Galladay, and I'd like to just give a little update on our amazing Dr. Martin Luther King Day celebration we had this year. On January 18th, all students, staff, and families and community members were invited to participate in a virtual day of learning this year to honor Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and legacy. The theme of this year's celebration was "The time is always right to do what is right." We had a variety of different opportunities for the community, for students and staff to participate virtually in. One of those was Dr. Eddie Moore Jr. He's a diversity and leadership workshop trainer and speaker, and he did an amazing keynote speech for our district. Another one of those opportunities was a community read aloud. So staff and students read picture books to our community in honor of MLK. And each of these books also went along with our theme, "The time is always right to do what is right." And this is still up on YouTube. This is amazing. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that, I highly encourage you to go on and watch some of these amazing read alouds done by Krupa Patel, Pierre Harlan, Claire Donahoe, and Deborah Piazza. We also had an amazing Voices tribute, and several of our students in Rochester and staff were able to watch a variety of different people singing Lift Every Voice and Sing, otherwise known as the Black National Anthem. And this was a wonderful way to honor Dr. Martin Luther King's life and legacy. And this is also still up on YouTube. It's such a beautiful compilation of voices sung by many people from the community, students, and families. So make sure you go on and check that out. And then finally, our MLK essay finalists. So we had several amazing RCS students, grades K through 12, submit essays, poems, and multimedia displays in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And 6 student finalists were selected by a committee of educators, administrators, parents, and caregivers. It was so hard to choose. We had some amazing, amazing entries. These finalists were invited to attend a virtual ceremony, and they showcased their entries to the community live on YouTube. And each finalist was awarded a Cold Stone Creamery gift card, a ribbon, and a certificate. And they did such an amazing job. And actually, we have one that we'd like to share with you right now. This is Kaya Lamb.
The time is always right to do what is right. The time is always right to respect others by listening to their words. The time is always right to share by caring and sharing. The time is always right to be considerate by thinking before you speak and act. The time is always right to be fair by treating others the way you want to be treated. The time is always right to be honest by telling the truth. The time is always right to show love by giving a big hug. The time is always right to show courage by never giving up. The time is always right to be friendly by saying hello with a big smile. The time is always right to make the world a better place.
Thank you, Kaya. So, Kaya, what inspired you to participate this year?
I wanted to tell people to be nice and share through this and be happy through this event. Also, my brother entered this event a few years ago. So I wanted to do the same thing.
Awesome. And what do you hope people will learn from your message?
I hope they will learn to help people and make the world a better place, and to remind people it is always time to do the right things.
Every time I see that, it just makes my heart melt. So our students really did a fantastic job. And that link is still up on YouTube as well if you weren't able to view Kaya and then 5 of the other students who participated and were finalists. So finally, the last update I have is our District Equity Committee has been working very hard. And we have separated into 4 subcommittees. The first subcommittee is school-wide systems and structures. This subcommittee's focus will study all school efforts and structures and basically how this drives everything that we do, the systems that are created in Rochester. So that committee will be looking into that. Our District and State Policies Committee will work to understand how policies and the resource allocations promote the development of school environments. So they'll be looking at different policies that we have set up in our district. And family and caregiver and community partnerships and engagement. This work will be centered around ensuring equitable schools, that making sure that we have a co-design and a co-collaboration between families and the school. So working together to make sure that we have a partnership with our families and making sure that we're all creating equitable spaces for our students. And then finally, the Teaching and Learning Committee will be working to make sure that we're engaging in healing-centered and trauma-informed classroom practices and culturally responsive pedagogy and practice. looking at our curriculum, looking at our engaging our students and making sure that we're honoring what they need in an equitable way. So these are just the 4 subcommittees of the District Equity Committee, and they've been really hard at work. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that with you. And then finally, Black History Month is an annual celebration of achievements made by African Americans in recognition of their African heritage and also their significant role in US history and in president contributions. So similar to many other various heritage months, we must continue to ask ourselves how we can honor and uplift Black stories, Black triumph, Black joy, Black agency, and Black lives beyond the 28 days of this month. So as we teach our students about Black History Month, let us not only teach about the struggle, but also about the triumph, not only about the pain, but also about the strength, and not only about the oppressive side of Black History Month, but also about the resistance and overcoming obstacles. So Thurgood Marshall once stated, "In recognizing the humanity of our fellow beings, we pay ourselves the highest tribute." So this Heritage Month affords us that opportunity to pay ourselves this highest tribute today, but also all year long. So thank you for allowing me to speak today in the spotlight. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thanks for all of these updates. Any board member comments or questions? I appreciate the work that you do. Very much appreciate the MLK Day activities, and that video was perfect. It's very important work, and we appreciate the showcase.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next up on our agenda is communications. First, we have Secretary Butel, if you can tell us about the communications received to the board.
Good evening. The Board of Education received 19 communications that came through the RCS website. Those include district parent Krista Parton, who contacted the board regarding the secondary hybrid schedule. District parent Sherry Drainer contacted the board regarding the COVID vaccination and supporting both in-person and virtual learners. District teachers Holly Dooley, Rebecca Bezamek, Allie Danielson, Laureen Kashalk, Emily Sommer, Denise Reed, Lisa Lamb, and Angela Burry contacted the board regarding returning to full in-person instruction. District parent Amy Ackerman contacted the board 5 times and shared 5 articles. District parent Vanessa Scott contacted the board regarding her photography business and her desire to partner with the district. District parent Marcus DeGraw contacted the board regarding full in-person instruction and return to sports. Community member Drake Hurst contacted the board regarding ultraviolet light technology. And district teacher Lisa Lamb contacted the board regarding feedback about scheduling her second COVID vaccine. In addition, we received emails from 10 people that were not submitted through the RCS website and therefore are not included in the board packet. The emails received were from Hanan Spencer, Julie Parks, Andrew Weaver, Dustin and Laura Coleman, Lisa Rabat, Marcus DeGraw. We also received a letter from Brad Scott regarding middle school athletics that was signed by 35 people. Another email from Brad Scott, Sarah Peach, Jessica Patelka Opfer, and every board member received an email individually from Margot Javilov. And that's the end of our communications.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Next up is student representatives to the board. So at every board meeting, we have our student representatives from our 3 high schools, and they are going to tell us what's going on at their respective high schools, which started back to hybrid learning today. So not sure if you guys are in cohort A. If you are, you can tell us a little bit about how that went, but otherwise we will start with Adams High School and Sudong Kim.
Thank you and good evening. The Highlander staff was super excited to welcome cohort A for in-person instruction today, and I was a part of cohort A, and it was really exciting to be back, though waking up took a lot of more energy than necessary. The Adams staff has continued their learning and work with cultural competency and social emotional learning, which aligns perfectly with meeting the needs of our students and staff during this pandemic. The Adams counseling team is underway with the scheduling process for the 2021-2022 school year. They have already started to meet with grades virtually, and our link leaders will also be hosting a Zoom session on Wednesday for freshmen to receive scheduling advice. We are all very excited that athletics and extracurricular activities are cleared to resume. Protocols are in place to minimize risk and help keep everyone safe and healthy while participating in these activities. We have always valued athletics and activities as we know how important they are to the overall well-being for students. 17 Adams Art students won awards at the Scholastic Art and Writings Award program. We are extremely proud of these students and our teachers. Our Highlander Helping Hands program, a program designated to support and mentor our future Highlanders in elementary and middle school, has 97 Highlanders mentoring and supporting 114 future Highlanders. The feedback has been very positive from both parents and students, both the mentors and the mentees. Our advanced placement teachers are working super hard to make sure our students are prepared for success for the AP test in May. And from Student Council, we are currently working together to prepare this year's Try Hard Charity Week for Common Ground, an organization that offers 24-hour support through helplines connecting victims of crime, mental illness, abuse, and workplace violence to local services. We have started reaching out to businesses for sponsorships and are looking for innovative ways to increase participation throughout the school community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next, we'll go to Rochester High, Sophia Chahaki. I'm going to guess by your last name, you're in cohort A also, but I guess I don't want to assume. So tell us what's going on at Rochester, Sophia.
Yeah, it was awesome today. And I really liked the new schedule. I thought it was super easy to be participated in class with the new schedule, and I really enjoyed my day. So obviously the Falcons made their return back to school today in our new hybrid schedule, and we were so excited to get students back in the halls of Rochester High School again. We would like to thank our students and staff for making this return to school smooth and welcoming, and we are so excited to welcome Cohort B back to Rochester on Thursday. Throughout the year, our teachers have gone above and beyond with finding fun ways to teach curriculum through our remote and hybrid settings. In our small business and entrepreneurship class, run by Miss Mulsbury, students created a business plan, and students had the opportunity to compete in a virtual Shark Tank, partnered with Northwood University. This gave students the opportunity to upload a business pitch on Flipgrid, and the winning company won a cash prize donated from Northwood University. Falcon athletics are starting back up this week. With the news of indoor sports being able to compete, the Falcon athletes are so excited to start up their season safely, following all protocols. Having their first competitions this week, girls basketball tomorrow at home against Oxford, boys basketball first game tomorrow at Oxford, Rochester United hockey's first game today against Birmingham, boys swim having an away meet on Thursday, competitive cheers first competition on Saturday at Adams, and wrestling also having a quad meet at Stony on Friday. Our ski team also has a race on Wednesday. Good luck to all Falcons this week and their upcoming season. Our first senior event of the year, Mr. Rochester, is going live on our YouTube channel, Good Morning Rochester, at 7 p.m. this Friday. 8 senior boys will be competing for the title of Mr. Rochester. Feel free to join us and enjoy the show. Our Tri-High Charity Week will be held March 15th through the 19th and will be benefiting a local charity, Common Ground. Our student council is planning this amazing week and are so excited to see the events come to life. And finally, our Rochester Reaching Out program is almost ready, and we would love to have more elementary schoolers come and virtually hang out with our 100 mentors in the program. If you are interested and have an elementary schooler who would like to join, please email cjones6948@rcs-k12.us. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Sophia. And next up, we have Viola from Stony Creek High School.
Good evening, and despite my last name, I am actually in cohort A. So I am very pleased to report back after my first day of in-person hybrid learning. It went very smoothly, and we were welcomed into the school at the main entrance by therapy dogs, teachers, and administrators, offering a kind greeting in the morning. Having therapy dogs at the school in the morning today was a great way to reduce any stress had by students or staff about returning to the new schedule. Transitioning back to hybrid and soon in person has given our school organizations and students so many more opportunities. Our student council at Stony Creek normally has the tradition of decorating our bulletin boards in school. For the remote part of this year, we were able to begin decorating. We had our Instagram with virtual bulletin board flyers. But today we got to decorate our in-person bulletin boards to liven up the hallways and keep the students updated. With our success in live streaming fall sports, we are now making an effort to live stream winter sports as well. We have started out by live streaming winter swim and dive, where our last meet Stony swim team won against Birmingham Groves 96-90. With the new order that winter sports may occur, we will also be live streaming those as well. Stony has worked very hard to continue expanding our horizons and promoting learning and social growth. From this message, a new club at Stony, the Social Justice Club, is attempting a social justice summit on March 10th with all 3 high schools virtually. Our National Honor Society has also collaborated again with the Caleb White Project and is continuing to make kits to help those in need. In the next coming months, pending approval and following day-to-day COVID guidelines, we have begun brainstorming for our annual Tri-High Charity Week. This year, our charity is Common Ground, which is a local chapter for the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. This year especially, it's very important to us that our charity was mental health devoted, where our goal for school events will be creating unity once again, and while addressing important issues and remaining safe. That's all I have for this evening, but thank you.
Thank you. Thanks as always to our student representatives. I know you have homework to do and things to do, and you do have to get up early again tomorrow morning. Glad to hear from you about your first day back and about, oh my gosh, so many things going on. Definitely keep us updated on the Charity Week activities, or if it's not Charity Week, if it, some other charity activities, we always like to try to participate in those if we can. And it's really great to hear everything that's going on at your schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Next on the agenda is our citizens requesting placement on the agenda. As I mentioned earlier, we do have a mechanism for citizens to request placement on the agenda at the start of the agenda. It's a form on our website that has to be received by noon Wednesday prior to our meeting. So tonight we have 4 citizens. We have, we have Stephanie Van Dale, Michelle Jedick, Andrew Weaver, and Annemarie Bonardelli, and I'll try to call on you in that order as long as I can see you in Zoom. Just as a reminder, each of you has 3 minutes to speak. I'll remind you when you have 30 seconds remaining, and if you can start by stating your name and your relationship to the district, that would be great. So first up, we have Stephanie. Stephanie, you should be unmuted.
Can you see me and can you hear me?
We can't see you, but that's okay. We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Stephanie Van Dale. I have 3 children, 2 that go to Stony Creek High School and 1 that goes to Hart Middle School. Because of Kristen Bull and Kevin Beer's lack of leadership and behavior at the January 11th, 2021 Board of Education meeting, I demand that they each resign, and I urge this board to move forward quicker to get our kids back to school full-time with in-person instruction. It's up to you to find the working solutions. Our kids are suffering because of this district's lack of preparedness. A board member acted shocked during one meeting about the logistics of getting kids together and back to school face-to-face. You all knew this day was coming, and why haven't you been planning for it? Our kids need and require in-person socialization. They are in their most formative years. Kids need to look other humans in the eye, not through a camera and not through a screen. Humans are analog, not digital. Members of the board, if you are so concerned about classroom numbers, then why are you not demanding the technology department begin streaming class content to students at home? Then that allows teaching half of the students in person at the same time. Why is this so difficult? You've had 11 months to figure it out. But we have Zoom school is not the answer. None of our parental concerns is about blame. It is about progress and finding a way to live with a virus that is not going away. Be proactive. This is not a final exam. It does not require a unique solution. Copy other districts. Get advice from the open and full parochial schools. They've been operating open and fully since last August, by the way. Other local districts got back even sooner. Why is it so shocking that RCS parents are standing up and demanding that our kids get back to in-person instruction? Multiple parents have come to the board and to Dr. Shaner to offer help in mitigation strategies and new social distancing protocols. This board and the superintendent do not even acknowledge them. These taxpayers and parents are begging to help at no cost. They want their kids back in school. I know of RCS parents whose jobs are in manufacturing at large companies who offer tours of their facilities under COVID protocols. They offer things such as lessons learned, best practices, and simple safety steps that can be copied by RCS. Why are you not utilizing this knowledge resource? None of the board or the superintendent have taken these professionals up on their offers. And why is that? Are you too proud? Would you rather waste the taxpayer money getting to the same answer in a slower amount of time? Or are you trying to be right with your smug, condescending attitudes, saving your replies for Facebook? And if you think everything is hard and you cannot make decisions, then resign your position and go get your hugs from those that matter most. Move out of the way. Now go post that on Facebook.
Thank you. Next, we have Michelle Chittick. Michelle, you should be unmuted.
Hi, my name is Michelle Jedick, and I'm the parent. Sorry, I'm in the car. I'm the parent of a high school student. Hang on, I have to get a drink of water.
No problem.
Anyways, I just want to say thank you to all the teachers, the kids who have persevered in this very difficult time. I know how hard this is for everyone, and I appreciate everyone's efforts. I also want to say thank you to Dana Taylor, who has taken the time to answer questions that I have regarding the budget and where these numbers are coming from. I appreciate Dana taking time out of her day.
Michelle,
I really hope that these conversations can be, hello?
Oh, we just had lost you for a second, but we hear you now.
Oh, sorry. I sincerely hope that the conversation that I had with Dana, as I told her I appreciated, we talked again today, can act as a starting point to collaborate more between the parents and the key positions that report into Dr. Shaner, in addition to the school administration at the respective schools where, parents can interact more freely. I think there is a huge opportunity for the district through the public relations department, which appears to be about 5 people, to engage more with parents instead of continuing to post tweets, thanking teachers. We are all here, this entire group on this call, to support our kids and to deliver outstanding educations that we have all come to expect from this district. I sincerely hope that the board and all of the other direct reports, in addition to Dana, can continue to work in a cooperative manner. And that is, on both sides, parents and the administration and the schools to move forward. I mean, we live in a very divided time right now, and it's unfortunate that we have so much animosity. We have to find ways to work better together. And as Stephanie said, to find a way to be able to have our kids back full time, which I'm excited for that to happen soon. So I thank you all, and I, as I said, would hope that this board and the administration will find ways to collaborate more, such as coffee with the superintendent. It could be coffee or Zoom meetings with some of the direct reports. The more we share, meaning the transparency of what is in the numbers via programs for all students, I think the better we can repair the relationships that are severely impaired. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Andrew Weaver.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
So my name is Andrew Weaver. I have 2 sons at Brooklands. So I think it's pretty apparent that I have very little faith in the district and the Board of Education. I plan to speak tonight about some misinformation that's been put out, but I'm going to change course a little bit as I received a letter and a phone call from the district lawyers. I received a cease and desist letter for false allegations. One thing that has been very clear throughout this process is I've challenged the dishonesty. And when I've asked for clarification on things like why I've been censored, there's been no response from anybody at the district or the Board of Education, other than to say it's needed at sometimes, which censorship should never be needed. I'm going to read the statement in which the district felt they needed to get a lawyer involved instead of answering the question. It's something I posted on Facebook, somewhere Kevin told us to keep it. I have shared that I believe that the delay to returning to in-person instruction has been tied to the virtual campus. Scott is one of 4 BOE members that has asked no questions about the return back to in-person from August 10th to November 30th. He also does not speak much at all other than an occasional pat on the back or condescending comment. So it was interesting to find out that in addition to being the owner of Oakland Properties, he also works for Skillo Inc. Skillo Inc. is a modern online learning platform. It would be nice to have a better understanding of what his role has been in the development of the virtual campus. This could be a conflict of interest if he is using his position on the board of it, on the BOE, to expand the role of his employer. There could also be no connection, but the community deserves to know what the relationship is. The letter goes on to state that I sent an email to the Board of Education with the same conversation, which I absolutely did, because everything I have done has been transparent and very direct. I have not hid anything. I've made all my comments very public. So for the district not to just address the concern of a possible conflict of interest, how hard would it be to come to a board and say, hey, you're right, there could be some look here with all the virtual stuff. Let's clear the air. Instead, they used resources to hire an attorney, to use the district attorney to try and have me silenced. So 1, I will not cease and desist. I will take legal action against the district and this lawyer for trying to violate my First Amendment right to speak up, because there is nothing in that statement that is untrue. I am making no claim whatsoever in that statement. These are actions of people that are very insecure and feel that they cannot have honest conversations in exchange of ideas. This is not leadership. And I'm not the only parent that has received a cease and desist order. So again, to all the other parents that have received them, they are a tactic to bully, and you should not be silenced by them. And the district should absolutely be ashamed that they took this course of action.
Andrew, time's up.
As parents, we should all come together and be able to stand as one and to say, this is not what our district represents.
Thank you. Annemarie Bonardelli. Annemarie, you should be unmuted.
Unmute.
Oh, there you go.
You can hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I said, you get an A+ for pronouncing Bonardelli perfectly.
Great.
Wow. I kind of feel like I chose the right night to come and share the purpose of my intention here. I want to say thank you. In Italian, we say grazie. All of you are doing an amazing job, in my opinion. Just a little background, my husband and I were very, very nervous to move from private schooling through 8th grade into public school. We had an opportunity to meet Mr. DeLuca at the school and get a private tour of the high school. And within 10 minutes, I knew that's where we needed to be versus the 4 hours we spent at a private school, high school, struggling to think, is this where we wanted to put our daughter? So from day one, we have been so impressed with Rochester High School. And recently, after I heard some very uncivil comments, both in the public and on emails, and just what we even heard tonight, I knew I had to say something. I knew I had to find a better place to say thank you to Dr. Shaner and to all of you. I mean, you are managing 15,000 plus people. That's a company. That's a country. That's an amazing effort to try to do something you've never done before in a pandemic. Repeatedly, my friends would hear me say, I hope they put a teacher on the Times Person of the Year cover, because while our healthcare workers, are also suffering, they're somewhat trained for that type of emergency. Teachers and the school board and districts and parents and kids and virtual, no one's trained for that. And I've known a couple other school board members, and I would text them and say, I am so impressed. The Dr. Shaner letters, the communication. I just want you to know that my husband and I, we lived in Europe. He's had European education. We went to private school. I am so impressed with the way the Rochester district handles. I don't even know what these other parents are talking about. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that. But because the world that I live in and my neighbors, the praises are enormous. I have a friend who is the president of the Grand Rapids School Board, and I praise our school system all the time when I have that opportunity. So really, that is the intention of why I suggested, or where I reached out to say, I'd like to come and say thank you in person. I'm sure I can get involved in other ways as well. But take a deep breath. This is a calling, 15,000 plus people that you're trying to manage. And I think there are so many people that forget that. I'm a business person. I work for corporations. That's a big number. And I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next on our agenda, we have members of the Board of Education. Board of Education members, do you have any communications that you wanted to detail, Barb?
Yes, I received some communication from Colleen Metzka and Galia, Jessica Opfer, and Nina Ignaksik. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your names, my apologies, regarding the return to learn the return to in-person learning. Tracy Steffen, who is through the Oakland University, regarding the College of Arts and Sciences search for a dean, since I serve on their ambassadors committee. And I also received a private Facebook message from Paula Woodman thanking the board for our work and helping keep the staff and kids safe as the district returns to in-person learning.
Thank you. Other board members? Michelle.
I received a letter that was from Becky Mack, Elise Taransky, and Andrew Good. They are all teachers in the district, and they were providing feedback and some concerns about returning to full-time face-to-face instruction. And I also had received a note from Paula Woodman thanking us for what we're doing.
Thank you. Any other board members have communications to share? So I have several. I've received emails from Amy Chermside, Christine Larkins, Carlin Shamow, Heather Poirier, Marcus McGraw, Melissa Duggan, Melissa Haddad, Sarah Malik, Alyssa Borska, Carrie Conley, Laura Cornish. I received communications and had phone conversations with parents Brad Scott and Peter Andrew, both to talk about individual concerns. I also wanted to mention that I had a phone meeting with REA President Doug Hill. I had a phone meeting with State Representative Mark Tisdall, and I received email communications over the weekend from Dr. Michael Rice, the state superintendent, and Dr. Cassandra Ulbrich, the president of the State Board of Education. Both emails were expressing support and also expressing condolences for Dr. Shaner. And that's it. Next on the agenda, we have PTA Council update. I don't see Jamie here. Is Jamie here? Jamie Rotcliffe? And I don't see Jamie in Zoom, but Jamie, if you're here and your name's something else, maybe just raise your hand so I know to call on you. Oh, Jamie, I'm gonna assume you're Meadowbrook Elementary PTA. Jamie? Jamie, you should be able to talk.
Yep. Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Sorry, I have various Zoom accounts for my PTA duties.
No worries.
So.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So I just wanted to say, despite all the difficulties that we're facing this year, restrictions for in-person activities, our PTA council and our respective PTAs at each of the schools are still working diligently to support our students and staff as best we can. And we're actually still quite busy. The big thing we have coming up later this month is our Founders Day. It will be February 18th from 7 to 9. It's going to be virtual, and it will be available for streaming on a YouTube live link that will be sent out. The theme for this year's event is volunteering, a work of heart. The Board of Ed and Cabinet, you guys will receive your invitations very soon. We will be recognizing staff and parent and student volunteers from all the schools in the district, including our virtual campus. We want to give a big shout out to Cindy Lindner, who has been amazing in helping us set up this very large live virtual event for the evening. And just wanted to share some of the district winners of our major district awards this year. The John Schultz Leadership Award will be given to Nikki Stringer. The Council Advocacy Award to Laura Kirkland. The Bright Ideas Award to Kim Kelly. Our 3 Distinguished Service Awards recipients are Casey Case, Emily Stowe, and Jennifer Wilson. And the Acorn Award is going to Rochester High student Brooke Gordon. In addition to the virtual event, we will be hosting a silent auction that will open on February 12th and close February 17th. This will replace the normal basket raffle that we do to help support our high school scholarships that we provide. We are also wrapping up the Reflections program. We had 99 entries from the schools in our district, and 71 of those moved on to the state level. We will find out on March 1st any winners from our district at the state level. The Virtual Campus Advisory Committee is continuing to meet monthly with the administration to go over what's working well, where improvements may be needed, and we are in the process of looking into setting up a PTA, PTSA for the virtual campus next year. Our Green Schools team has been busy. Our council chair, Jedick, partnered with Rochester Community Schools and applied for a $10,000 Recycle Bank grant, which we have received. And we are in the process of finding out which schools are in need of recycling bins in their classrooms, offices, hallways, and getting those taken care of. We are also working on green school applications, which are due March 1st. And many of the schools are also collecting eyeglasses right now for reuse through the Lions Club. And we have 2 more things going on. Our 4th grade health fair is going digital with the thanks of 2 staff members in the district, Julie Rains and Rachel Monero. They're helping us put that fair that we do every year online so that it can be accessed by in-person students, remote students, the virtual campus, that we can still make sure that program happens. And finally, Authors in April, if you haven't heard yet, is moving to May this year. It will now be the week of May 24th through the 28th. This is just to help hopefully provide a better experience for our students, and we're hoping that the extra month will allow for some better opportunities for the students to meet with the authors in person. The middle schools are currently selling the books right now, including the virtual campus that they'll be studying in their ELA classes. And within the month, most of our elementary schools will also be selling books by the authors so that the students can read up and be ready for their visits in the spring. And that is all I have for the PTA Council.
Thanks, Jamie. Appreciate all of your updates. Appreciate all the work that you do, and looking forward to all of the upcoming events that you mentioned. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Next on our agenda, we have our consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature by the Board of Education and will be acted upon with one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If any member of the board or any citizen requests discussion of an item, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be the first item of business under the new business portion of the agenda. Item 5.1, current bills payable for January 1st through January 31st, 2021 in the amount of $14,263,166.74. Item 5.2, Board of Education regular meeting minutes for January 11th, 2021. Item 5.3, Board of Education work session meeting minutes for January 25th, 2021. Item 5.4, MASB Board of Directors election. Would any board members like to remove an item for discussion, or would any member of the public like to remove an item for discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All of those in favor of the consent agenda, please unmute and say aye.
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 Opposed? That's a 7-0 vote. And next on the agenda, we have reports. So we have 2 items under reports tonight. We have the Deputy Superintendent's update, followed by Superintendent Committee reports. And for the Deputy Superintendent update tonight, I will call on Mrs. Fragameni to present to us any updates since our previous meeting, where we did talk in depth about the plans going forward with our COVID-19 learning, including a phased-in plan, hybrid learning, and then hopefully a potential phased-in in-person learning. I did want to mention that we do have further on the agenda our routine approval of the extended COVID-19 learning plan recertification, which is the plan that we have to recertify every month. Just as a reminder, that plan does not include any sort of schedule or calendar. So in other words, we are not approving, we are not actually taking a vote tonight on a schedule to return. It's not part of that plan. So the plan is required by the state, and it has several items outlined in it, but it does not include a schedule. That schedule, as everyone knows, is very fluid, and it's led essentially by the administration. And so that is why Mrs. Fragomeni will be, with the help of your team, I think, will be presenting several updates tonight. And we'll take board member questions or comments after that. And we'll take public comments. We can take those either at the end of the meeting, or we can take those under new business so that people don't have to wait until the end of the meeting. We can take those under that recertification. But I just wanted to outline right from the very beginning that that plan does not have any dates in it. So with that, Debbie Fragomeni, Deputy Superintendent, if you could take this away.
Thank you, Madam President. I appreciate your clarification for this evening. And I'm very honored to give an update to the community from our last meeting in January, our Learning Forward updates. And I have the privilege tonight of having some of our colleagues, there are many, that are standing behind this group as well that have offered to help participate this evening. So from our cabinet team, Concetta Lewis, Corey Heisch, Lori Grine, and Matt McDaniel will be representing. And our building administration, we have Dave Murphy, David Poncius, Michael Benyon, and Josh Wrinkle. And I thank all of you for helping us to navigate through this process. And I'd like to begin, if I can. We can start the slides, please. Our slides always begin with our timeline. And our timeline moving forward, again, is documentation of all of the work that's being done. We share this with all our subcommittees so that we can ensure that we're documenting appropriately. I'd like to go to the slide that shows time phase-in. Starts January 25th. That was the date that our elementary and our early childhood special programs, ECE, ASD, cognitive impairment, severe multiple impairments, and special education programs and services, students began to return in person, learning by their cohorts using a hybrid approach under the guidance of their dedicated, talented, and incredibly passionate teachers. On January 25th as well, we did present the district extended COVID learning plan to the board for approval. As Mrs. Bull said, each month we certify the plan moving forward. What we're going to do tonight before that is give you an update from our committees and our best thinking as we're moving forward. And as Kristen mentioned, that this is a fluid process. And everything that we have committed to, we are following in terms of following the data, but also noting the opportunities going forward of how best to get our students back to school safely. So on February 1st, our middle school students returned in person, learning by their cohorts using a hybrid approach. And I asked for a few brief pictures, and I think we have a whole package of them that are going to be coming through with happy faces. And I was really excited that all three of our representatives tonight all had cohort A. It was fun to hear directly from our students because our student voices are our compelling why. And I'm so glad they had a very good first day. So with that, on that timeline, you'll see on February 8th today, our high school students began that return to learn in their cohorts in a hybrid approach. Today, the middle and high school athletics resumed, and our RCS presents the extended COVID plan for the board approval next. So those are items that are all on our agenda. So on the first February 8th day, this has been a big day for our district. I'd like to do a shout out to our administrators and also to our athletic directors and coaches for receiving the communication on Thursday about the athletics returning and the tireless effort that they have made for it to begin officially today. That is no small task, and they were very invested in making that happen. So I want to make sure they're recognized for that. Next slide, please. Under this slide right here, we have the weekly summary from Oakland County showing the number of cases that are continue to decline. We follow this certainly very closely. And also, as was mentioned and is also found in the research as well, that we know that this pause in the state of Michigan across the nation as well has continued to decline. And that's because of the strict mitigations
that are critical for that to be. And what I loved hearing about our student voices tonight when they were talking about their athletics and their classrooms, they all intertwined how important that's going to be for us to continue as we return to our learn process. Next slide, please. Here's the weekly report that we receive from the Oakland County Health Department. I want to assure you that we are in continuous conversations with the health department. And as you will note on this, and it will also be on the website, that the healthcare capacity is very stable. All of the trajectory of numbers is going down. Testing, tracing, and containment infrastructure is very strong at this point. And I just would like to highlight that the number of reported cases has decreased by 478 cases. The average number of tests per day has decreased over 200 tests per day, and percent positivity has decreased a little less than 1% over the last 28 days, and just under 1% over the last 7 days. Again, the percentage of cases hospitalized remains stable, and a healthcare capacity remains stable as well. From the beginning of the pandemic through February 8th, this information becomes our guiding light to check, to confirm, and to ensure that our district is aligned with these numbers so that we can make decisions, work with our committees and our community in terms of strict mitigation. Next slide, please. This slide was shared in January. It talks about the guidance and some of the adjustments of the guidance. For example, being able to go to quarantine from 14 days to 10 days and some of those pieces. But at the bottom two bullets there, the MDHHS guidelines for operating schools safely was released January 8th, and the data learning plan was presented January 25th. So what I'd like to point out as well is that currently the epidemic order to allow contact sports returned again today with safety protocols in place for practices and competitions. And again, as you heard from this week's calendar, there has been robust energy to try to serve our community in that way. Under our plan through RCS, the COVID Preparedness and Response Plan was revised on January 20th, 2021 to adjust to the new guidance that was given to us from the Health Department and the CDC. And secondly, the COVID Extended Learning Plan is a continuous board approval of the plan that was created last summer and approved beginning when we returned to school in August this year. With that, I'd like to turn this over to my colleague, Concetta Lewis, and she is going to speak to the return to in-person learning. Thank you, Concetta.
Thank you, Mrs. Fragamini. Good evening, Board of Education. We are extremely excited, as you've heard students talk about tonight, about coming back full-time, 5 days a week for our students. And so we are excited that February 22nd is our date for elementary programs, pre-K and elementary, and that is all programs at elementary. So that includes our special education programs, that includes our early childhood special education programs, and our ECSC programs are currently only attending 3 days, so this will bring them back to their regular 4 days per week. We won't get back up quite yet to the 3 hours. We'll be at 2.5 hours instead of 3. But again, we're working toward that. We will continue to cohort at the elementary level to continue to mitigate as much risk as possible and limit exposure. And then our secondary students in grades 6 through 12, in addition to our adult transition programs and services, will come back full-time March 1st. Now, again, for our adult transition programs and services, much of what that group does is in the community. And many of the community partners have not opened back up fully for those students to engage as they were doing pre-pandemic. So we still may have to make some adjustments on hours for them because, again, most of what they have done has been in the community. So finding ways to be creative and do some things a bit differently. So be on the lookout for information about Jitters. I'm putting that shameless plug out there. And updates about new ways that the community can engage with our ATPS store. We can go ahead and go to the next slide. So there are some, as we think about the return to learn, there are some specific things that relate to special education that we wanted to share with the board and the community. Our early on programs, typically those programs, staff would go to homes to work with families and provide consultation. They have been doing that virtually since the pandemic started. That has been the recommendation from the state level and from Oakland schools that we continue to provide that service remotely. Some of the groups that they have typically had at the administration building, we are bringing those groups back so they will be able to come to the administration building, but staff will not go to homes just yet. We are using an abundance of caution around that because there are factors that we can't control in each individual home. And so just out of an abundance of caution, at this point, we are not authorizing staff to go into homes, but they will continue that service remotely. Again, I mentioned our ECSE classrooms will return to 4 days per week with an additional 30 minutes. So instead of just 2 hours, they will be there 2.5 hours per day. And our categorical program classrooms, we initially had considered having all programs come back on February 22nd across the levels. However, to continue the continuity of the support that the students at the secondary level have, as well as their opportunities for engaging with their general education peers, we are having those students return with their level. So elementary students will return with elementary students full-time. Secondary students will return full-time when secondary as a whole returns full-time. We've talked about our adult transition programs and services. And then when students have an IEP, when we get back, I know our team will be super excited about this part. When we get back to full-time 5 days a week, there will no longer be a need to update and review and revise contingency learning plans. However, if a student has to quarantine or they are in isolation, a team may opt to utilize the CLP process to continue to support that student while they are out. Or if there's a family who we have some students with some severe medical conditions that even when we open our doors for 5 days a week, those students may not return. Those students would continue to need a CLP to talk about the types of programs and services and supports that they will get while they continue in what we are calling COVID learning. And I believe that is about it for me, and I am turning it over to Josh.
Thank you, Mrs. Lewis, and thank you to the RCS Board of Education and RCS District Administration for allowing us to present this evening. As we discussed last meeting, a committee made up of over 50 staff members, administrators, community members, and parents have been meeting frequently over the last few weeks to discuss components of an return to full in-person learning at both the elementary and secondary levels. One of the most significant challenges facing this committee is the middle and high school schedule. Components such as student movement throughout the buildings, contact tracing of students and staff, instructional time and supports for all students, both those in person and those who may be at home, contact tracing and transportation and food service needs, and equitable access to after-school activities have all been complexities that this committee has worked to address. In addition, we've also worked to honor the impact of the schedule on shared staff between buildings, on our Oakland Schools technical campus students, and our special education programs. At this time, the committee has explored 6 different schedule concepts as we continue to work to finalize a plan moving forward that both maximizes student safety and instructional practices. So with that, I would like to introduce my colleague, Dave Pontius, principal of McGregor Elementary, to discuss some in-person learning safety protocols.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wrinkle. Mr. Wrinkle and I had the opportunity over the past 11 months to work with staff and community members on a very important process of returning to school. During this process, RCS remains committed to following safety protocols, which include personal protective equipment, hygiene, such as washing hands. One of the things that we talk about at McGregor Elementary School is keep calm and cougars wash those paws. And our students know this inside and out, and we really push that at the elementary level. Other things that we need to look at to ensure that we're mitigating risk is spacing, movement throughout the building, enhancing our cleaning protocols, improving ventilation practices, and improving our water management processes. Next slide, please. Even though that we are mitigating as much as humanly possible, challenges will arise, and this is why this is an iterative process. One of the things that we are looking at constantly is maintaining distance and social distancing as students return. One of the challenges that we face is our buildings have varied dimension sizes throughout the district. Another challenge that we are working with right now is providing strategies for our teachers. We know right now that our students need that social interaction. Learning is a social endeavor. So we're looking at ways to ensure that we're providing that for our students while mitigating as much risk as possible. We're also looking at modifying cleaning procedures during transition times, maintaining separation as much as possible and feasible with students in the lunchrooms. We've had several discussions with other elementary principals on how we can modify lunch schedules, and then looking at how we're going to maintain the integrity of contact tracing. Now, not only contact tracing in school, but once the students get on buses, recess, off-campus lunch, the high school courses at OSTC campuses, and transitions from home to school and school to home. Additional challenges that we're looking at is preparing procedures and cleaning products for commonly used items in specials classes at the elementary level. Also looking at the secondary level, looking at science labs, food kitchens, etc. One thing that is going to be very critical that we focus on ensure that there's congruency is the schedules between the secondary and elementary to ensure that busing is coordinated. And then finally, what we're really looking at, and we've had a few conversations today, is preparing food services to meet the demands of students when we return to full-time attendance in the 5-day model. And at that point, I'd like to turn over to Mr. Heitch, our elementary director.
Thank you, Mr. Poncius. I wanted to spend a few moments with the board and the community discussing what we have been collaborating with across the county level within Oakland County ISD, the 28 districts there, and then also kind of a cohort of districts that are similar in size to Rochester Community Schools. So as of today, when we seek best practices from districts across the county, state, and the country, as we've connected with districts outside of Michigan boundaries as well, something that we knew that is crystallized every time you speak with somebody in another district is no two organizations are the same. While we may have some of the same parameters within the variables we're working with, all of those variables are different within a boundary district. Currently, we have 6 out of the 28 Oakland County districts that are offering 5 full days of in-person K-12 instruction. I'd like to clarify that 5 full days of in-person K-12 instruction a little bit. We do have some levels in other districts in the county attending 5 days a week, but the amount of in-person contact time is still hovers around that 50% to 75% of the amount of instruction they receive. So while students may be attending 5 days, it is not something that I would characterize as a 5 full days of in-person instruction. A keynote, when you look at data available on the My School Data website, the average enrollment of those 6 districts is just over 6,700. And 2 of those districts, 2 of the 6, have more than 2 high schools, excuse me. So 2 of those 6 districts have more than 1 high school. And one of the districts that does have 2 high schools uses a blended model, which they've done to significantly reduce the density in the secondary buildings. And what we've heard from that district is a large majority of the population is not receiving in-person instruction at the secondary level. So as we continue to collaborate, go ahead and turn the slide, please. We'll look at what we found in like-sized districts in Southeast Michigan. So these are within the Tri-County area, all have multiple high schools with a minimum of 3, very similar to Rochester. And of the 5 districts that fit that profile, with an average enrollment of those 5 districts of over 17,000, one district is currently offering 5 days of full-time K-12 in-person instruction. Within that district, what we've learned is approximately 27% of the secondary students are using their virtual option, which they've used to significantly reduce the student density within the middle of high schools. And they have also, not significantly, but they have changed arrival and dismissal times to shorten the day a bit. They also are serving lunch within their model, and students are receiving close to 100% of their instruction in a face-to-face model in that district. It's also important to note that with the 4 districts inside this cohort that are not at a full 5 days of in-person instruction, 4 of those districts just began a secondary hybrid model of instruction. So it was not something that they were able to have students participate in the fall. So this is new for them, and they have not yet made a plan to return to 5 full days of in-person instruction. I want to reiterate, it's important to know what's happening around you, what your neighbors are doing, and we connect, and it's a very collaborative culture within our county and in the Tri-County area. This is not to pass judgment on any other district. This is not to say that, somebody's further along than the other. This is just to present what we're seeing and what we're hearing when we talk to other districts. We're all facing challenges, but every district is different. Every organization is different. And all of those variables that districts are navigating are different within each boundary. So I now am going to pass it along to Mr. Benyon, who is going to give an update on athletics.
Thank you, Mr. Heisch, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of this today, and board members. Appreciate the opportunity to bring you an athletic update. As you know, today we started Michigan Department of Health and Human Services updated its current order to allow contact in high school sports and middle school sports to resume with safety protocols in place for practices and competition. And so today, our high school sports teams got kicked it off. RCS high school athletes returned to winter sports following this guidance, and that's in partnership with the MHSAA. RCS high school sports currently permitted at this time are boys and girls ski, boys swim and dive, boys and girls basketball, hockey, competitive cheer, and wrestling. One thing at Rochester, we know the complexities of bringing athletics back, and we are committed to ensuring safety protocols, and our athletic directors and coaches do a great job of this. Some of those things that we will include is mask wearing, screening, and distancing, and we will assist in mitigating the risk of COVID-19 transmission. There are situations where they have deemed that masks cannot be worn, and so participants must regularly get tested for COVID-19, consistent with those guidelines set up by the MDHS. The order remains in effect through March 29th of 2021. And following strict safety protocols, Rochester Community Schools has approved a limited abbreviated winter athletic seasons for grades 6 through 8. So some of that testing that many people have questions about when it comes to wrestling, the MDHHS will make rapid tests available at no charge to all the wrestling teams and high school sports that wish to test participants. And so that's one important measure that was taken by our health departments to ensure the safety of our student athletes. All participants are subject to contact tracing and close contact requirements when positive cases or positive tests exist. And so all of our student athletes and coaches will be we will be going through working with administration, contact tracing those situations. Rochester Community Schools high school athletes are required to submit an MHSA medical questionnaire and a paid to participate consent form. More information on that can be found on our updated awesome website that has been released as February 1st. So any information that you need can be found in the athletics section of our website. And then the schools will need to order the tests in order to get those, and they will be shipped to the ISD facility, and we can pick them up there. And so our athletic directors are working through that. And families will continue to receive athletic updates from administration, athletic directors, and coaches through School Messenger. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Mrs. Fragamini.
Thank you. And thank you for including those pictures of our athletes on their first day today. It's very exciting to see some normalcy for our kids. So I just wanted to briefly summarize as we continue this presentation, the timelines that we had proposed moving forward based on what the data and the science tells us, and also with the hybrid model as we're monitoring each group, which today we have each level in. So we're very excited about that. Again, January 25th was elementary and special programs. February 1st was middle school. Today, February 8th, is our high school students in a hybrid model. Our proposal moving forward is February 22nd, full-time in-person learning for elementary and CSE, and March 1st, full-time in-person learning for grades 6-12. The K-12 special education categorical programs, those classrooms will return to full-time learning in sync with each of the levels. And I believe that Mrs. Lewis and our PAC group have spent a great deal of time talking and navigating through that, along with our experts that are specialized teachers in special education learning, and they will be adding that component as well. In talking with teachers out in buildings, talking to administrators, we believe that masking and social distancing, hand washing will be critical to mitigate. And it will also be a partnership with our families to ensure the safety of all of our students and our staff. And the request being, if your child is ill, that you please keep them at home. And that's just a request that our teachers continue to mention. They are so eager to have our students back, but they certainly want to mitigate risk so we do not have to return from this model back into a remote model. So with that, Matt McDaniel, I'd like to turn over for a moment to you for some additional information on the participation rates.
Thank you, Mrs. Fragamini. Good evening, everyone. As you know by now, we have to report our participation rates every time we recertify the plan. So as a reminder, participation rates are determined Wednesday through Tuesday. And we're also required to report participation rates even when school is not in session. You'll notice when we had 3 full weeks in January, the 6th through the 12th, the 20th through the 26th, and then the 27th through February 2nd, our rates were in the 97%. When we had breaks, December 29th through January 5th, as well as the Martin Luther King holiday, January 13th through the 19th, that our rates did dip a little bit, 91.8% in that December break period, and then 95.4% for the MLK holiday break. These rates are not completely finished yet. There are still some opportunities to increase these rates. While most of this process is automated, there's some manual calculation that needs to be done. So these rates should increase. And next, we'll have an update on the COVID-19 vaccine from Mr. Dave Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. McDaniel. Thanks for having me, everyone. A quick update on vaccination efforts statewide and locally. This first slide just kind of reiterates what you've seen before, that we're currently still in phase 1B, which does include anyone that works in the educational field. Go to the next one, please. Okay, so with the help of Ms. Davis, the HR department surveyed our staff late last week. We sent out roughly 1,500 emails of just north of 900 teachers that we sent a survey to, and an additional 600 or so other staff throughout the district. So far, we've got 951 responses, so roughly 2/3 of those that received an email have responded. Of those, 59% at this point have received at least one dose of a vaccination. 69% have either received or are scheduled to receive one or both. And there's a pocket of 22% that are, I guess, the frustrated pocket, right? The ones that are trying to get vaccinated, but to this point have been unsuccessful. Another 10% or so are either medically unable or choosing not to get vaccinated at this time. So we are continuously exploring opportunities either through the health department or our local health organizations to address that 22%. It works out of those 1,500 emails to about 300 that we really would like to get that process started, but haven't been able to as of yet. And I believe
Dave, if I can add some updated information, I appreciate it.
Go ahead.
We've been collaborating closely. Dr. Shaner has been in contact with Ascension. We're working on a partnership. We anticipate by the end of this week or the beginning of next week that we will have information. We have alerted them to the number of staff members who are not able to get appointments and our partnership, and we're very confident that we're going to be able to offer vaccines to our staff members very shortly in district or at a site that Ascension locates. So we are very close. We know that this is a priority. We apologize for the frustration that people are having, that they're taking away from many things to try to get an appointment. And we are very invested and dedicated to make sure that anyone who wants a vaccine that's a staff member will receive one very soon. So I want to make sure we share that as well.
Thank you. And I think Ms. Linder is up next for an update on our new website.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Good evening, Board of Education and RCS. I'm Cindy Linder with Technology Services. Back in 2003, I had the honor of being a part of the launch of the first ever Rochester Community Schools website. That website served us for the next 18 years. On February 1st, 2021, we successfully launched a brand new website. This initiative started back in July of 2018 and has taken us 2.5 years to implement. You see, we wanted a lot out of our website, and that took time. Our vision with the website was to welcome our families to RCS, to create a home site for our families with all of our information in one place, to highlight our schools and programs and celebrate our students. It needed to be designed for mobile devices and social media integration, and to better serve the needs of our community with disabilities and offer tools to support ADA compliance. We wanted to easily create and import alerts on the site and streamline communication through contact us forms, and include security features and analytics and much, much more. With security in mind, you will notice that email addresses have been replaced with easy to use contact forms or shared accounts like rhs@rochester.k12.mi.us. Using this process, we safeguard our staff email addresses from tools like a website crawler. These tools are designed to extract data, including email addresses for advertising, sending spam, or to hack into accounts. Parents and students can still access email addresses and contact staff through Parent View and Student View. So visit our new website and watch the welcome video to highlight how to explore and navigate around the site. I'd like to give a huge shout out to our project leads, Lori Grine, Karen Carl, and Donnie Malofsky, and all of our content editors. Thank you for creating a warm, engaging, informative home site for Rochester Community Schools. Also, everybody remember to update your bookmarks and favorites to the new site. Thank you. Back over to you, Mrs. Fragamini.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Linder, and a shout out to the entire team for putting our website up to date as well. I just would like to say before we turn it over to questions, I've had the opportunity to talk to several colleagues in the district. We've also had time to work with the different administrators, and I just would like to take a moment to share how incredibly proud I am of all of our colleagues in the district, and also the staff members who continue to nurture relationships, provide rich experiences for their students, both remote and in person. It's joyful to see you with your children. We're grateful to you. We understand, and we're listening and looking for opportunities to make our learning environment safe for everyone to return. So please know that that is a commitment that we have. As a school community, we have several committees that are working very hard, as have been showcased this evening. And again, I'd like to say thank you to the committees that are doing some really heavy lifting to look at complexities while also celebrating collaboration and making the best decision, not making a quick decision, but making the best decision based on best practice. We're exchanging a lot of ideas and strategies across the county, across the state, and across the nation to ensure that we're bringing forward to you best practice mitigations to keep everyone safe. And I also would like to thank our parents for your patience, your continued partnership. It has been immeasurable. We don't say that enough, but the reality is sharing a partnership and a vision to serve our kids together is such a great model for our students. And as we see our students returning, our entire administrative educational system values those relationships and look forward to working together and setting really good examples for our kids. So with that, I would like to take a moment to see if there are any questions or follow-up. Again, this evening was just an overview and a snapshot of the work we're currently doing as we move toward a full in-person experience for our students and our staff. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the really detailed report. I appreciate you outlining all of the challenges, and I have a lot of respect for, all of you going forward as you work through those challenges, as I'm sure you will. You're all incredibly smart and innovative people, and having those roadblocks or challenges in front of you is the first step in figuring out how to overcome them. Do any board members have any questions on the presentation? Michelle.
Of course, I have a couple, so I'll start with some and then let others jump in, and then I can finish up if other things weren't covered. But I know that one of the items was the secondary schedule that Mr. Wrinkle was talking about. And I just wondered, do we have some idea when we think a decision will be made on that? Because if I was a parent listening, I'd be wondering what that means. Will the start time or the end time be different? Are we changing block schedule back to 6 classes? What does that mean? And I'm just wondering when you think something will be announced so that families can plan accordingly if they do need to make transportation decisions, that type of thing.
Mr. Wrinkle, do you want to step into that one just a brief moment?
Sure. I appreciate the question. I think our committee's been working very diligently over the last 2 weeks to try to make sure that we address all those complexities and concerns that we outlined that make up that secondary site schedule. I think we're very close to coming up with some solutions, and we have some very good concepts that we just need to try to fine tune a little bit and make sure that that we get as much feedback as we can from our committee and other members of the secondary admin team and district administration as well. So I think we're very close to that, but if to put a certain specific date on that, I don't know if I could provide one to you, but I think we're very close to coming up with something that makes sense to reduce risk and also make sure that our instructional time is well spent during the school day.
And Michelle, with all of our groups coming back, we're very thoughtful to the timeline for families coming back or making arrangements for childcare or school age care. So that is a priority for families that will be returning on February 22nd, and being mindful moving forward to give families enough time to make arrangements or for them to be able to coordinate what they can expect from their secondary students as well.
And I guess my next is really just more a comment. I know that a lot of the challenges that you outlined are items that staff has mentioned as well. And I guess I would just encourage you to potentially have even more communication with staff, make sure that they understand that, their concerns are being heard and being looked at, and to give them direction necessarily if they have a specific concern for their classroom, where they're supposed to go, and what they're supposed to do, so that they know and understand that we value and can sympathize for any concerns that they have, and that we want to make sure that we can do everything we can to, put every mitigation into place and to meet the needs that they have to feel comfortable coming back.
Absolutely. That is a priority, always.
And then I'll wait to see what everyone else has to say.
That was a good point, Michelle. Thank you for saying that. I would echo that, those thoughts. Barb?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for that presentation, and especially discussing the collaborative nature that we're working with other districts that are similar in size and scope. Because I think we hear a lot of anecdotal comments about other districts, and you really have to be able to compare and do an apples to apples comparison in order to get an idea of where we are in relationship to our peer districts. So I really appreciate the insight that was provided tonight in that part of the presentation. I did have a question though, however, about the percentage of students that we anticipate that will still stay in the virtual, with the virtual campus. And if you have an idea of what that number is going to look like and how that could be impacting building populations.
Yeah, I can tackle that a little bit, Barb. When we last checked, and I'll get you more updated information as well, in terms of a district K-12 system, we were hovering between that 22 and 24% of our families that remain in the full virtual option. That excludes some families that have students with IEPs where it was a team decision to remain connected to their home building team, yet not physically attend in person for a large majority of their in-person instruction. And although that's a small number in terms of a total population, that's another component of students in our families that are not attending in person every day. Specifically at the elementary and secondary levels, it is heavier elementary, which we anticipated and what we learned through our survey and our market research last June. But we continue to hover around that 23-24% of students and families remaining in the full virtual option, and around 14%, if I'm not mistaken. And again, I will double check those numbers tomorrow. 14% of that at the secondary level that remain in the virtual campus.
Thank you, Corey.
Any other questions or comments? Mike?
Sorry. I guess I wasn't part of the tour, but was somebody going to mention that the board went on a tour with Dr. Shaner and others?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Michelle and I and Kevin had an opportunity to tour Rochester High and look at a couple of different classroom scenarios. And I'm glad that Michelle brought up the fact that, just the district really keeping up that correspondence and that openness with the teachers and staff so that they know, that there are items available to them to help them feel more comfortable in their classroom settings. And that at every building level on a secondary level, especially in classrooms with larger student body sizes, they're looking at them on an individual basis so that they can figure out what works best within that building and the space that they have available to them. It was enlightening. And, again, the success of this is going to be determined about, how our community responds to COVID, how, COVID impacts our school community. But it was a good tour. I mean, I defer to Kevin and Michelle to, you know, give some more input, but you know, my biggest concern is that we work really hard to mitigate all the thing and have all the mitigation procedures in place. And I felt comfortable seeing what I saw. Of course, there's always room for improvement. But go ahead, Michelle or Kevin, you can chime in.
Well, yeah, you brought up a good point right at the end there. I think the word fluid is used a lot. I know, Josh, you're one of the ones that uses fluid a lot because it is. The entire situation remains fluid, and so does the planning and the execution of all this. Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's part of the reason that you wanted to stagger the start was so we could see how things were going and hear from the teachers and the administrators, you know, suggestions on how to make things better. And so that fluidity is recognized and is being dealt with in a proper fashion. And so I do want to say thank you for that.
Andrea, I think you had a question. Oh, I think you're on
here
mute.
as well, just in case my videos keeps freezing. I know, Debbie, you and I spoke earlier this week, and we had some teachers who were asking both you and I think Pete can speak to it as well about the air purification systems and things that we've done in preparation for students and teachers to be back, HVAC systems and things like that. I think it'd be helpful. I know it answered some of my questions. I think it'd be good for the community to hear and be reminded of some of that work that has been done just in the facilities themselves to prepare for the return.
Absolutely. Pete or Dana, if you'd like to highlight those pieces, that'd be wonderful. Thanks, Pete.
Yeah, no problem. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so since the beginning, our facilities maintenance team has been going through all these buildings, checking the equipment, making sure everything's operational, changing filters, replacing equipment if it's not performing as it should be. So we've been doing that kind of since the beginning. It's an arduous task. There's tens of thousands of filters throughout the whole district. To get through the whole district takes, I don't know, probably almost 6 months for two guys to do all that stuff. So they've been doing that. In addition to that, we've done a couple other things. We've increased the run time of the equipment. So the equipment starts 2 hours, a full 2 hours before any staff gets in the building. And then we equipment run a full 2 hours after all staff has left the building. So just to keep more air circulating through the building. Additionally, we've also employed a couple air balance contractors to go through and measure the airflow that's coming out of all the ductwork and all the systems to make sure we're getting the proper airflow. So that's checked. As we get those reports, we're either making modifications to the equipment or equipment. We found very little stuff that's been had issues with, a couple exhaust fans and things like that, but no major air handling equipment. The other thing we've been doing is just monitoring the airflow as it goes through the buildings through our building automation system and checking airflows that way. So guys watch that every day.
Thank you. And Mike, you had another question or comment?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to echo all the things. I think I appreciate the report back from Barb and Kevin on the tours that we got this week. You know, I understand things are still being worked out. Michelle mentioned the high school schedule is still being worked out. You know, I do appreciate the efforts that are here that are you know being put forth by everybody on the team. I know that you guys are doing everything you can to address the needs of every student, and you're making sure that we attend to the concerns of our teachers. And that's why it's taking so long. It's because we're being very careful. We're making sure we follow the law, making sure we follow the guidelines, and really trying to make sure that we haven't missed anything. Everybody's tired of hearing the word complex, but it is complex. This is a living, breathing system, and it's just not something. The behavior of the system is something you cannot predict. And I do appreciate the care that's being put into it, into all this planning. Thank you.
Michelle, did you have another question or comment?
Yeah, I just wondered, I know I've talked about it at a couple different meetings, but we obviously know we're going to continue to have kids who need to quarantine because someone does have COVID. I know, one thing that was not mentioned here, but was mentioned in another meeting was just that with the mitigation that we have done in our schools, none of the students that have had to quarantine ever came down with COVID, is my understanding. So even though they were in close contact with a student who had it, they did not get it. So I think that's important for people to know as well. But having said that, we know that we're going to have students who need to quarantine. And so then the question is, how will they continue to learn during that time frame, especially when we're no longer using a hybrid model with remote or asynchronous?
Thank you, Michelle. That is integral to the conversations that we're having continuously, because we do know that students who are quarantined do not always carry any symptoms, and they're healthy and they're active. And how do we best serve them? That's part of the equity question that we're asking ourselves through all of our problem solving, through all of our committee work. How are we ensuring an equitable education for all students? And how to ensure that the moral imperative to reach the needs of our many learners under whatever circumstance they are within, if they're quarantined or they're in person. So I don't know if there's anything to add to that, Josh. That's a big portion, Mike Benyon and Josh and Dave, that we're working on trying to determine how best to navigate through that. I don't think there's an easy answer, but there is going to be a direction. And we have spoken to several other districts. We're looking more outside of the state of Michigan. That hasn't been an area that we've seen, as Corey had mentioned, like districts that are in some of those same situations in the same models. So that is a big priority question, along with spacing. Those are big pieces for secondary in the movement.
Any other board member comments or questions?
I'll just say one more then. I mean, we've talked about it over and over again, that this is fluid and we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But as we are looking at these challenges, if we have not come to a solution, that's a potential that those dates may change. Is that correct?
I believe that the circumstances that would make changes would be any change to the data and the environment. We are moving, we are problem solving. We anticipate having clarity as long as the data guides us that we're able to return in person with those dates. So we are working tirelessly, and as the community should expect and deserve, we are putting high standards on ensuring that we come up with a thoughtful answer, not a quick fix, a thoughtful, problem-solved answer.
So I guess just to follow up then, you feel confident that you'll be able to address all of the challenges that were identified prior to going back full-time?
Well, I guess if I look at the committee of people that are on here and what has been accomplished, I have every confidence that together we will have a direction moving forward. It's who we are, it's what we stand for. We're going to continue to work with our committees, which have parents on them. We have students, we have administrators, we have teachers, and I have tremendous confidence that we will problem solve and work through this together. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So as just a point of procedure, we do have, so we'll wrap this update up. We do have a few more very brief superintendent committee reports to get through. And then I think it makes sense there are a few members of the public that have raised their hand and expressed they wanted to speak about return to learn. So I would just recommend that we'll put those people under our first item under new business, so they don't have to wait till the end of the meeting, unless they choose to wait till the end of the meeting. So next item is superintendent committee reports. And I will take Mrs. Fragamini to report on the superintendent steering committee meeting.
Thank you, Kristen. On Tuesday, February 2nd, the Steering Advisory Committee met to discuss the district budget and bond audit, employee vaccination participation, CDC guidance on spacing and movement at each level, and current inventory of PPE in all of the buildings.
Thank you. And I will ask Matt McDaniel, our Executive Director of Business Operations, to report on the February 5th Superintendent Business and Operations Committee meeting. Matt.
Thank you, Madam President. The Superintendent's Business and Operations Committee met on February 5th, 2021, discussed the budget, bond audit, November financial statements, and we're also provided an update on the presentation that was presented today. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Beth Davis, our Chief Human Resources Officer, please report on this February 4th Superintendent Policy and Curriculum meeting.
Thank you. On February 4th, the Superintendent's Policy and Curriculum Committee met, and as board members have indicated, had a tour of classrooms at Rochester High School and reviewed CDC guidance regarding spacing and movement of students at the elementary and secondary levels, and reviewed PPE available in the buildings and discussed the return to learn plan with regard to that issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we move on to the new business. First item is item 7.1, extended COVID-19 learning plan recertification. This is an action item. And again, what is being approved for recertification is the learning environments that a student may be learning from. So it doesn't include dates. It doesn't include specifics. It is required by the state for public boards of education to approve this monthly. It really is, I'll describe it as a formality. Mrs. Fragamini, do you have anything else to add to that before we take a motion to approve?
Yes, I just would like to let the community know, and along with staff members, that this approval and recertification comes into play to show good faith in our commitment that we're serving our students through a hybrid, through a virtual, through a remote, or in-person model. And nothing has changed from the plan that was designed. So the recertification this month, along with every other that the board is being asked to please certify, there are no changes to the plan for the month of February.
Thank you. So I'll take a motion to approve the extended COVID-19 learning plan recertification as presented. Moved by Andrea, seconded by Kevin. Is there any board discussion on this? I'd like to make sure we have time for public comment. So I'm going to call sort of on everyone in the order that I received these. So first, Jessica Opfer. And Jessica, you'll be followed by Katie Gittner. Jessica, you're up.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. My name is Jessica Opfer, and I am the parent of a North Hill 3rd grader and a Hart 7th grader. Tonight, I wish to express my concerns about the district's intent to return to full density in-person learning without incorporating public input and without a plan to effectively enforce the state's safety protocols. This board is elected to serve the interests of the entire school community. The district's only community survey on the COVID-19 learning plan was conducted by random phone call last June. The results of that now irrelevant survey were never made public. Our community has been told for months that another survey is in the works, but there is no word on when that survey will be disseminated or how the results will be used. RCS is moving toward full-time, full-density, in-person learning without broad community input into that plan. I am the moderator of the 650-member RCS Remote Learning Support Group, representing a broad cross-section of the district, including parents, staff, and even a few students. On Friday, I polled our members regarding the return to full-time, full-density in-person learning. While the responses represent just a small slice of the school community, I believe the results are still relevant. 78% expressed concerns about returning to full-time, full-density in-person learning at the end of February. Those concerns center on the inability to comply with social distancing, secondary classrooms of 35 to 40 or more students, also including crowded hallways and cafeterias. Michigan's safety protocols state districts should maintain a minimum distance of 3 feet in classrooms, 6 feet during maskless periods, and class sizes to be kept to a level where those requirements can be enforced. Anecdotal evidence and the photos provided by the district itself indicate it may be physically impossible to maintain 3 feet of separation in a large number of our overcrowded classrooms. Many parents have expressed much greater comfort with our elementary schools returning to full density. Data indicates less risk of younger kids serving as spreaders of the virus, and keeping classrooms together as cohorts is much easier to do at the elementary level. We have been operating in hybrid mode for less than 2 weeks, only a day at the high school level. Michigan just reopened restaurants, other public gathering places, and restarted youth sports. We're coming off of Super Bowl Sunday. We have the winter and spring breaks looming, and many of our teachers are still waiting to receive their vaccinations. Our kids are not responsible, mature adults working in corporate offices or factories. The same kids expected to comply with a lengthy list of health and safety guidelines are the kids who routinely forget to wash their hands, wear their masks improperly, and, to be very blunt, smear their bodily fluids on the bathroom walls. I know I speak for the majority of parents when I say I want my kids back in school. My kids want to be in school. But we also want evidence that the state's safety protocols will be effectively enforced. And based on tonight's presentation, that hasn't happened yet. I have asked for months for a scenario where kids who want to be in school can go to school, and kids who need to stay home can participate from home through live streaming or other accommodations. Apparently, we have reached an impasse on this topic. The hybrid scenario is a compromise, and there is still plenty of room for improvement. The district should focus its efforts on successfully implementing and improving instruction in the half-density hybrid mode before making the shift to full-time, full-density in-person instruction. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, I have Katie Gittner, or maybe, sorry, it could be Olivia Gittner, followed by Jamie Moore. Katie, you're unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, my name is Olivia, and I am in 7th grade. I have a worry. My worry is that I have a class with 45 kids in it. I love this class. The teacher, Miss Fulmar, is great. How are you going to help my teacher keep kids safe and socially distant in a classroom with 45 kids? I have another worry. 4 out of 6 of my classes have 35 or more kids. How are you going to help my teachers keep us safe? Kids just like me overthink things. Trust me, my friends worry about this every day too. I want to go to school and not be nervous so that I can learn. Thank you for listening and coming up with a plan to help my teachers help me be safe.
Thank you, Olivia. Next, I have Jamie Moore, followed by Elias Habib. Jamie, you should be unmuted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm a 1st grade parent, hopefully a soon to be pre-K 4 parent. Our pre-K 3 program was canceled, though I understand pre-K 4, of course, paid. continued all this time while kindergarten couldn't, which of course is interesting. Thank you for your work and for finally following the lead from our neighboring similar sized school districts to get our young children back to school. Troy, for example, has been back 4 full days to my understanding, Oxford 5 days. I read some of our teacher emails in the board packet with disappointment, including one with a kindergarten teacher not wanting to teach, quote, snotty kids. In kindergarten, and especially in the cold state of Michigan, I don't know how that will ever be avoided. It makes me sad a kindergarten teacher would describe children that way. Please follow the science and the recommendations by Governor Whitmer's latest press release with a doctor on February 4th regarding how much our children have suffered and how much they need to be back in school. The experts all agree that they need to be in the classroom. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Next up, I have Elias, followed by Elizabeth.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, that's actually, my son is registered under my.
Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Okay, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Christine Habib, and I currently have 2 kids in the Rochester School District. I wanted to talk tonight in regards to the virtual academy school. My 4th grader is currently doing well in virtual. He has an excellent and caring teacher, so this setup is working great for him. However, I will be enrolling my 6th grader in virtual academy, and I have some concerns. 1, his STEM class isn't available or offered in virtual academy, along with many other courses and AP courses. And secondly, will you be increasing instructional time, face-to-face time? Because as it stands now, my understanding is kids are receiving an hour or less a day, which seems inadequate given the platform is virtual. They need more instruction time. I would like to know if these are considerations and improvements that you're looking into for this year or next year. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll have someone get a hold of you from the Virtual Academy to talk about your unique situation. Thanks for your comment. Next is Elizabeth. Elizabeth, you should be allowed to talk, followed by Lori Baggett.
Hi, good evening. Hi, my name is Elizabeth Whitten. I have 2 questions, one of which Michelle already asked, but I'm going to ask it again. March 1st is about 3 weeks, it's exactly 3 weeks away. And I want to know what the plan is so that when one or multiple students, such as Richmond has 80 students out right now, having to quarantine, how are those students going to learn? They have to be out for 10 days and there needs to be a plan that is clearly communicated. We're now 3 weeks out. It needs to be communicated far in advance of March 1st. So ideally it would have been great to have had that information tonight. My second comment question is under the hybrid model, our high school kids, I'm going to focus on them, are receiving 870 minutes of instruction a week, which is 58% of what they would get when they're in person, which is 1,500 minutes. How is that time going to get made up? They're getting 870 minutes for the next 3 weeks. That is not acceptable. That doesn't even take into account the fact they would have had 1,260 minutes under the remote learning. And I guarantee you they did not get 1,260 minutes a week. The number of times I know various high school kids would come downstairs and go, I'm done with that class, and they'd only been up there for 30 minutes. So my question is that, how are we making up that time? This is time they can't get back. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Next up is Lori Baggett, followed by Doug Hill. Lori, you should be unmuted.
Hi, this is Lori Baggett, and I have 2 high school students in Stony Creek Elementary, and I represent a group like the first speaker of concerned parents for return to school. And I can tell you that about 97% of us are all in for returning full-time on March 1st. And we actually wish it was tomorrow to return full-time, but we'll take what we can get. My second comment is I heard the information about the filtration systems. I'm wondering why the district didn't put more than 2 people on that issue as to getting the buildings ready in regards to filtration systems. I heard it's a pretty big job, but I did hear that there were 2 full-time people working on that. And that is really concerning considering we're coming up on March 10th, which was the last time that my sons were in full-time school. So, I think that resources could have been better spent to maybe hire some people for that. I don't know if that information was 100% correct, but that was very concerning to me when I heard that information. The last thing is we heard some information about other districts here that are comparable to our district, who's back, who's not full-time, who is full-time. And again, I'm wondering why we are not talking to the private schools, why we are not talking to specifically the Catholic schools that have been back full-time 5 days a week, and why we are not looking and reporting on what schools outside of Michigan are doing, specifically Florida, which is a much bigger state with double the amount of people, and they have been back full-time since August. So I think if you want parents to research that, I can tell you there's probably about 1,800 in our group that are willing to do that. Just give us the word. Let's put our foot on the gas. Let's get back to school already. Okay? Put the plan in place. We are ready, and our kids will do the right thing. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Doug Hill. Doug, you should be unmuted.
Only if I hit the unmute button, apparently.
There you are.
Okay. Good evening, President Bowl, members of the Board of Education, and members of the RCS administration team. My name is Doug Hill. I'm the president of the Rochester Education Association. Our bargaining unit represents the lion's share of our district's employees, and certainly any decisions that are made will directly impact each of them. Not surprisingly, our membership is a microcosm of today's society. Many are feeling comfortable and ready to see their entire class in person at the same time. Yet our internal surveying tells us that for every member who is ready for this return, there are another 2 members who are feeling some level of apprehension. It's true that last month's CDC report and revised state school reopening guidance suggest educators might be able to return to classrooms even if they have not been vaccinated. The caveat to this statement, and one that is all too often getting lost, is that schools may safely reopen prior to staff vaccinations with appropriate mitigations in place, which include mask wearing, proper ventilation, and physical distancing, all of which have been discussed plenty tonight. Of these 3 mitigation strategies, the only one that seems really attainable throughout all of Rochester is masking. We have many classrooms in our district that are either windowless or lack windows that open, never mind the bone-chilling cold outside. And in terms of distancing, the CDC still recommends 6 feet when engaging with people from outside your household. Likewise, the primary school reopening guidance from the state of Michigan is to maintain 6 feet of distance at all times. This guidance does offer the disclaimer that if a school district nonetheless proceeds with in-person learning, at minimum, it should maintain minimum seated distance of 3 feet, and class sizes should be kept to the level afforded by the spacing guidelines. In some of our highest volume classrooms, kindergarten through grade 12, 3 feet will not always be attainable. To be clear, the predicament we face today has been decades in the making. As multiple recent studies have shown, Michigan's K-12 schools have been inadequately funded for years, and this has led to the need for what is commonly referred to as greater efficiencies in scheduling. In other words, higher class sizes. Unfortunately, Rochester has not been immune to this. The contractual class size maximums, which are up to 39 in some of our high school classes, in our collective bargaining agreement have been static since the late 1990s, but it has only been in the last decade that scheduling to the maximum has become a regular occurrence. And this is almost entirely due to annual budget uncertainties. And now, in the midst of a global pandemic, where space is at a premium, we find many of our classrooms lacking just that. So here we are 11 months after entering pandemic learning, having a discussion about whether it is or is not safe to send 1,500 employees and 15,000 students back into our schools, with the knowledge that about a quarter of one group has not yet been able to schedule a vaccine, and the vast majority of the other is not even eligible to be vaccinated. It is, in fact, a delicate decision and one that needs to be carefully considered. Do keep in mind Governor Whitmer's request is to have some form of in-person learning in place by March 1st, which RCS has already accomplished. Further, per President Biden's comments yesterday, we anticipate official CDC guidance on the topic later this week. With that, I urge all of us not to act too hastily until everything is known. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you for your partnership as well. And that is all the forms that we had filled out that were specific to COVID-19 learning or return to learn plan. So with that, we will take a vote on the recertification of the extended COVID-19 learning plan, which, as I mentioned, is a formality. It doesn't include any dates or a timeline, and it has been unchanged since summer. If board members could please unmute themselves, and all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? That is a 7-0 vote. Next item on the agenda is the Human Resources Report. This is an action item as well. And for this, I will call on our Chief Human Resources Officer, Beth Davis.
Thank you. This evening, we have 4 new hires that we are recommending to you this evening. Joshua Checo, language arts teacher at Adams High School. Laura Coleman, resource room teacher at Van Hoosen Middle School. Pedro Gould, business teacher at Rochester High School. And Sheila Magicks, information literacy specialist at Stony Creek High School. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll take a motion to approve the Human Resources Report as presented. Moved by Michelle, seconded by Mike. Any discussion from the board or members of the public on this report? Seeing none, I will ask board members to please unmute, and all those in favor of the Human Resources Report, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, 0. That is a 7-0 vote. Next item is the bond audit. This is an action item, and I will call on our Executive Director of Business Operations, Matt McDaniel.
Thank you, Madam President. So tonight we have our bond audit. Typically, we have our audit presentations in November, December, but with the bond and the 2016 bond, Series 1 has been completed, and we are legally required to complete an audit. Thank you, Lori. So this is for the 52-month period ending June 30th, 2020. With any audit, I like to start with the most important part, which is kind of at the end. So as we move on to the next slide, you'll see the auditor's opinion. That's the most important part of any audit and what we start with. So the district received an unmodified audit opinion. This is the highest level of assurance possible for the district's financial statements. The audit was conducted in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and government auditing standards. The audit was conducted by our team of Lewis and Knopf, who also completed our last audit that we presented to you in December. I'll try to keep tonight's presentation brief. Moving on, we'll talk a little bit about the bond and why there is the audit. So on November 3rd, 2015, the bond was approved by our voters. It was a $185 million bond, and the district chose to issue that in 2 series. So moving on to the next slide, we issued Series 1 on February 16th, 2016. The amount was $128,356,645. That's inclusive of the bond premium of $19,631,645. As I said earlier, because the bond funds, the work has been completed, we are required to complete an audit within 120 days of the completion of that work. With all of our audits, and since 2016, when the audit was, or when the bond was approved, we've had our auditors audit the bond fund or the capital projects fund each year. So 15 and 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, they've continued to audit. So for this latest audit, there was very little to review as we were running into the end of the $128 million that we received for the bond. To note, Series 2 was issued in May 2019, and you can expect a separate audit once those funds are expended as well. Moving on, we'll look a little bit at the financial statements here. You guys also have a report. It's about 8 pages from Lewis and Knopf that includes our statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. You'll see that in addition to that 128 million from the bond, we have 3 million in total revenue, earnings on investments. Based on the spend down of that money, we were able to earn some interest income, as well as miscellaneous local revenue. Most of that revenue is through consumers or DTE efficiencies that were created by the installation of new equipment with bond dollars. We received some revenue because of those changes. On the expenditure side, you'll see that we expended all 128 million in a variety of different categories. Purchase services, building and site improvements made up the bulk of the expenditures, about 100 million. Non-tech improvements, that's very similar to building and site improvements. In fact, our auditors, after the second year of auditing the bond, just decided that they were close enough that they would no longer break them out as non-tech improvements, but because they did that in the first 2 years, that's why you see that. Those non-tech improvements are items like playground equipment or the demolition of the old Brooklands building. You'll also see that we've spent money on equipment and furniture, transportation, and then of course the bond issuance costs. And the bottom line, you'll see we have spent $128,356,645. We've expended all of Series 1. So moving on, just wanted to show you a little bit of a pie chart here, right? This is all of our expenditures. I think you can see with that 100 million number, that's our building site. That was the bulk of our funds. But you can also see what percentage transportation, equipment and furniture and other items were of that 128 million. Next, we'll look at some of the work. So these are some of the more recent bond projects. So these may have been funded with Series 1 or Series 2. And these are the prettier pictures. So one thing that, as Pete mentioned earlier, the bond has allowed us to do a lot of HVAC upgrades, improvements, replacements. You won't see any pictures of that here. That's not the fun stuff to look at. Here we've got Brewster and University Hills. You get to see a classroom. You get to see a media center. You don't get to see the guts of the building that have been improved and have been studied over the course of the bond and help put us in that position that Pete mentioned, where we could make minor changes or require minor changes based on new studies. So we've also provided some pictures of some of the work done at the middle schools. Here you'll see Ruther, their gymnasium, computer lab, and media center. You'll also see Van Hoosen, again, gymnasium, the cafeteria, and a STEM lab. And then finally, our work at Stony Creek High School. You'll see media center, collaboration space, a reconfigured attendance office, and of course, the main entrance. Are there any questions? I know I went through that pretty quick. It is a brief presentation. It's audited every year as part of the regular audit that's done. So this isn't really new information that you saw. We've updated you on our audits in the past, and Pete Musio and his team have also updated you on the status of our bond projects.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. We'll take a motion to approve the bond audit as presented. Moved by Scott, seconded by Kevin. Any board discussion or questions from board members or any members of the public have questions about the bond audit? Seeing none, we will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the bond audit as presented, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? None. That is a 7-0 vote. Next item under new business is item 7.4, technology projects. This is an action item. Again, Matt McDaniel, our Executive Director of Business and Operations.
Thank you. We have 3 technology project contract awards being presented tonight for your approval. On December 18th, 2020, the district advertised a request for proposal for network switches, wireless access points, and the Firewall 2021 project, also the Cabling 2021 project, and the Internet Access 2021 project on the district's purchasing department website, on BidNet Direct, and in the Rochester Post. These projects address the infrastructure required to continue providing a robust, adaptable, and secured state-of-the-art network. A public bid opening was conducted on January 19th, 2021 at 2 p.m. All bids were reviewed by the district's E-rate consultant, RRR, IT manager Paul Tranquita, network manager Tim Fortin, and Executive Director of Technology and Strategic Initiatives, Cindy Linder. Compliance with bid requirements was reviewed by Purchasing Supervisor Jennifer Fickle. All of the accepted bids were found to be initially compliant with the required specifications per the detail in the bid summary. The proposals were analyzed on bid content, completeness, inclusion of required submittals, and compliance with required specifications. The original bid documentation, or documents, are on file in the purchasing department, and the proposal summary has been attached. Based on this information, we recommend that the following contracts be awarded. For the network switches, wireless access points, and Firewall 2021 project, the district received 1 compliant proposal. Included in this project is replacement of aged equipment, support for the expansion of the district's wireless network, and a design to secure the district's network systems and data. This project will be funded from the 2016 Bond Capital Projects Fund in coordination with E-rate funding for an approximate reimbursement of 40% on eligible equipment and services. Based on this information, we recommend that the district award the network switches, wireless access points, and Firewall 2021 project to Delta Networks in the amount of $1,531,726.70, plus a 5% contingency in the amount of $76,586.34 for a total estimated project cost of $1,608,313.04. Madam President, would you like to pause here, or would you like me to go through the next 2 projects?
Let's pause to see if there are any questions on this particular one, and then good idea, and then we can go on. Any questions on this, Michelle?
Just a quick question. Are for any of these 3 that we're going to cover, will equipment be at the administration office as well, or only at our schools?
I believe it would include the administration building, but we do have our IT manager, Paul Tranquita, here. He should be able to answer that question for you.
Good afternoon. Yes, it will be at all of our facilities, as well as our data center, which is at the administrative facility.
And so I guess my follow-up question to that is that a couple months ago, we talked about that the administration building would potentially, whenever we get around to it, would either need major upgrades or we might need to find a different location. And so my question is, would these upgrades be able to be moved at that time? You know, how does that work?
Absolutely, absolutely. At the administrative building, some of these are individual devices that are easily transportable.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this? Okay, go ahead, Matt.
All right, so next we have the Cabling 2021 project. The district received 5 compliant proposals. The cabling will allow the district to expand the coverage of its wireless network. The project will be funded from the 2016 Bond Capital Projects Fund in coordination with E-rate funding for an approximate reimbursement of 40% on eligible equipment and services. Based on this information, we recommend that the district award the Cabling 2021 project to Trendset in the amount of $23,527.20, plus a 5% contingency of $1,176.36 for a total estimated project cost of $24,703.56.
Any questions about this contract? All right, go ahead.
All right, and finally, for the Internet Access 2021 project, the district received 5 compliant proposals. This project provides the ability to fail over to a backup internet connection and load balance traffic. This project will be funded by the general fund and has been coordinated with E-rate funding for an approximate reimbursement of 40% on eligible equipment and services. Based on this information, we recommend that the district award the Internet Access 2021 project to Windstream in the amount of $1,000 per month for 1 year for a total contract cost of $12,000.
Thank you. So any questions about this one or about any of them overall? Mike. You're muted, Mike.
Yeah, Paul, could you explain this last one for me, please?
Yes, this gives us additional internet capacity to address the one-to-one models as well as our internet access that we have through Oakland schools in case there's a cut or need for additional bandwidth.
So is it cloud services? Is that what we're talking about? I'm not following.
So it's a physical fiber connection into our facility that piggybacks all the other facilities, all the elementary schools that runs through that gives them additional internet access. So it's not the cloud, it's just like, how can I a student going to google.com just gives us additional internet capacity, another route in case the initial route fails or we don't have enough capacity in that line with all the students being back in.
And what percentage additional capacity does this give us?
Gives us about 35% capacity.
Thank you, Paul.
Michelle.
Paul, did you mention that this is just for elementaries?
No, it's for every building that we have in our district.
Okay, and then is it a 1-year contract because that's the minimum we were able to sign for and we would just renew it every year?
How can I answer that? It was a 1-year contract. That was the best option we have, and we can renew it each year to go through, especially with E-rates being an annual bid process.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think now we take a motion to approve the technology bids as presented. Moved by Andrea, seconded by Mike. And is there further discussion on this item? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That is a 7-0 vote. Next item on the agenda is our final item under new business, and that is item 7.5, construction contracts. Again, Matt McDaniel.
Thank you. So as you said, Kristen, there is one construction contract award being presented tonight. It is for roofing replacement. On December 22nd, 2020, the district advertised a request for proposal for roofing replacements on the district's purchasing department website, on the state procurement website, sigma.com, on BidNet Direct, and in the Rochester Post. The district received 18 responses for 1 category of construction trade and 6 contract options on the due date. A public bid opening was conducted on January 26, 2021 at 2:30 p.m. The scope of the project includes roofing replacement at Baldwin, Brewster, Hamlin, Hugger, North Hill, the Transportation Building, Long Meadow, Meadowbrook, Ruther, Delta Kelly, and the Caring Steps Children's Center. Bids were reviewed and evaluated by the district's construction manager and director of capital projects and facilities, Pete Musio. Compliance with bid requirements was reviewed by purchasing supervisor Jennifer Fickle. All the accepted bids were found to be initially compliant with the required specifications per the detail in the bid summary. The proposals were analyzed on bid content, completeness, inclusion of required submittals, and compliance with the required specifications. Interviews with the lowest bidders in each category included an in-depth evaluation of each bid. The construction manager's recommendation was reviewed by the district's Director of Capital Projects and Purchasing Supervisor. The original bid documents are on file in the purchasing department, and the proposal summary has been attached. The source of funding is the sinking fund. Based on this information, we recommend that the following contracts be awarded. Category A, roofing EPDM, Baldwin, Brewster, Hamlin, Hugger, North Hill, and the Transportation Building to Butcher and Butcher Construction Company Incorporated in the amount of $542,288. Category A, roofing EPDM, Long Meadow and Meadowbrook to Bloom Roofing Systems Incorporated in the amount of $536,727. A, roofing EPDM to Ruther, or for Ruther, to Lutz Roofing Company Incorporated in the amount of $193,920. In Category A, roofing, shingles, and metal roof coating, Caring Steps Children's Center, Hamlin, North Hill, and Delta Kelly to Advanced Construction Group Incorporated in the amount of $754,537. These recommendations total $2,027,472 plus allowances and construction management fees of $559,688. Total estimated project cost of $2,587,160,000. And we also have Pete Musio here to answer any questions.
Great, thank you for detailing that. So I'll take a motion to approve the construction contracts as presented. Moved by Kevin, seconded by Mike. Discussion, board member questions or questions from the public about this item. Michelle?
Can you see Barb?
No, I can't see Barb at all.
Yeah, she can't. I'm like over here going, hey, call on me.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Barb.
That's okay. Well, a comment and a question. Thank God we have a sinking fund, first of all, because it doesn't seem like we're that far away from when we used our bond fund monies to, update all of this infrastructure within our district. But I'm just curious if, and maybe Pete can speak to this, about what the timing is for all of these buildings, and for this replacement or upgrade or maintenance.
I saw you waving your hand. It was like me last meeting. For some reason I got cut out of the last meeting. But anyway, yeah, so this square footage of roofing is about 400,000 square feet worth of roofing. Through the bond, we did replace some roofing, but none of this was included, the scope that was left out. In 2016, when I started, I commissioned a roofing assessment. So I had all the roofs throughout the whole district evaluated, and they rated them. And the ones that were rated the worst, they're rated on a scale from 0 to 100. So as part of the bond, we did roofs that had a value of 30 or less, which is like major distressed roofs. So we concentrated on those for the bond projects. As we move into the sinking fund, fast forward 5 years later, some of these roofs have degraded from having minor distress to more major distress. So these are the ones we've identified for this time frame to be replaced. And actually, some of these aren't even full replaced. Some are a combination of replacement. Some are just reseaming. So instead of replacing and spending the money to replace the entire roof, we just redo the seams because most of the failures are done at the seams. So we have these roofs reseamed, and then we can get another 10 or 15 years out of them versus starting over and ripping all the insulation out and replacing all the rubber.
A lot like the what Matt was speaking of earlier with some of the bond funds, all the back of house improvements that were made that aren't really attractive and not the rouge and lipstick, so to speak, but they're necessary repairs and updating that has to happen. So thank you for that, Pete.
Yep.
Sorry, Barb, I have a very tiny screen and I had pulled the documents up for that bid and they were over your face. So I'm really sorry about that. Okay. Michelle.
Just kind of a follow up on that, because it seemed like, and maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but that we had approved some roofs in the past that were between $500 and $1 million. And these just seemed much less. So I figured these were kind of patch jobs, but are some of these full roofs for?
Yes. Some of them are full replacements where they have the old, what they call ballasted. So they put the rubber down and they're held on with stone. That's like an older technology. So those were teared up. They have a lot of failure rates just because they're held on with stone, and then people walk on them and they puncture the rubber, and even just a small pinhole through rubber will let a lot of water in. So most of those are being replaced. And then we go to what's called a fully adhered roof, where the rubber is actually glued onto the insulation. So it's a better product. So a portion of that is accounted in this. Where we have ballasted roofs, we're removing those and replacing them with fully adhered EPDM, which is rubber roofing, essentially.
And were the roofs that we had done before, were those metal roofs? Or what? Why was the cost so much more?
Because when you're just when you're doing a whole roof replacement, it depends on the square footage too. Like Stony Creek was, several 100,000 square feet itself. So, that roofing project alone was over $1 million just for Stony Creek. So it just depends. Some of them we can reuse insulation. Sometimes we, if we tear the rubber off, we can reuse the insulation. We try to plan on reusing the insulation as much as possible. So there's some allowances in there to cover that if we can. If it's soaked, if we tear a roof section off and there's soaked insulation, we have to replace the insulation. So if you're doing a whole new roof and you got to start with all new insulation, it gets a lot more expensive.
And the life expectancy of the ones that are going to be new will be how long?
30 years.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions about the roofs? Seeing none, I will take a vote. All those in favor of the construction contracts as presented, please unmute and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That is a 7-0 vote. Additional business. The first item on the agenda under additional business is citizens present at the meeting. Any citizen who is present in Zoom and wishes to speak about something that hasn't been on the agenda, please click the raise hand button and we will unmute you. I have one hand raised, and that is Andrew Weaver.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so here's where I'll talk about what I plan to talk about, and it's just the continued misinformation that's being spread. And the union official, I think, painted the picture perfectly that this COVID thing has been used to push an agenda. As he said, this has been decades in the making. The classroom sizes, all that. Our kids are not pawns. And it's become very frustrating. And it's very, very, very apparent. So Mike, let's look at a few statements that you're using to mislead people. You said that you guys are making sure you follow the laws. Are schools that are currently open right now not following laws? Is that the statement you're making to the public? That people that are getting their kids back into school are not following laws? Because you said we're going to follow laws. Then you said that it's complex. The kids that are in school, is it less complex for them? I mean, these are statements you are making to the public of why our kids are not in school. Everyone is dealing with the same facts. Well, maybe not. They're actually dealing with the facts. Here in Rochester, we're dealing with people's opinions. You heard from a parent that was remote that is upset. You heard from a parent from virtual that really pointed out why the virtual campus was not the right idea. We should not have launched a virtual campus in the middle of the summer that does not meet the needs. And then clearly you have the in-person group that has been absolutely denied the right to have their kids educated when, yes, the science shows that it can be done. My wife is a teacher. I have great respect for teachers. They have to make a choice. If they want their paychecks, they will go to work. If they don't, they won't go to work. Many of us have been back to work since last March and April. No one is better than anybody else. Everyone has to go to work to earn a paycheck. Our kids can be educated in person safely. There needs to be an online option for those that want it. There's no reason to keep putting out this false information. The other one that I will correct is this idea of social distancing. I work in a manufacturing facility. We absolutely have to ensure that we follow the guidelines. When this all started, it was very clear early on that if we did not, as we were getting audited, we would get shut down.
30 seconds, Andrew.
With that being said, social distancing is recommended. When you cannot maintain social distancing, you put other barriers in place. So no, you do not have to always be 6 feet apart. No, you do not always have to be 3 feet apart. You have to have reasonable mitigation in place. And the continued misinformation for political agendas, career agendas has to stop. There is no reason that we're continuing to do this. So Mike, please answer the questions. Who's not following the law by getting their kids back? Because that you said that.
Time's up, Andrew. Thank you. Members of the administration, any comments?
Yes, I would just like to remind everyone to mark their calendar for February 17th. Our PTA has done an incredible job supporting our staff in our buildings, serving our kids. They've been very creative, very innovative, and very passionate. And we're very grateful to have Founders Day. So please mark your calendars to all those who are receiving recognition. It is a very special recognition, and I thank them for bringing that forward. I also would like to say we're speaking about our educators tonight, our unsung heroes, but I had the privilege today to visit a building this morning, and I was able to walk in with a cleared driveway to our grounds and facilities that are making that happen, to our secretarial team who are walking with children to bring their missing backpacks was full of tears this morning, and watching our instructional staff engaging with our students, with our administrative staff, making those relationships. And I had an opportunity to watch kids having snack in the cafeteria, and the protocols and the work of our cafeteria system to make this work. Our why is being reflected in everything that we're doing. And Michelle, you said something earlier about, do I feel convinced that this community is going to be able to move forward? I have every confidence that as a community together, we're going to be able to continue to do great things for kids. And I just thank everyone on this call, and I thank everyone who is participating in proactively serving our community. It's just very much appreciated by all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other administrator comments? If so, just speak up here because I have a very minimized screen right now. Any board member comments? Michelle.
Just on behalf of the Rochester Area Youth Assistants, since I'm their liaison, I wanted to let our community know that they have 2 upcoming events that they are doing. Both of them are in conjunction with the Rochester Hills Public Library. On Thursday, February 18th, there's a culture and identity workshop at 7 p.m. And on March 2nd, they're having a what you need to know about the oh boy, sorry, I can't even read my writing, but about drugs and alcohol, including prescription drugs. And that is by Becky Savage, who is with the 525, president of the 525 Foundation. And we hope that people will take the opportunity to listen to her story and maybe learn some things about what they can spot in their kids or their friends to help our community. And that's, and also I would say that Raya is still there if anyone is in need of financial assistance for activities for their students, to reach out to them as well, because they have grants for those items. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for keeping us updated on that really important work too in the community. Any other board member comments? I just wanted to say, so I was losing my voice earlier during the human resources report, and I feel really bad. I do want to say a welcome after that vote Typically, if we're in person, we always, hopefully welcome someone in person if it's a new hire. I do want to say congratulations and welcome to RCS to Adams High School, Mr. Checkle, Van Hoosen Middle School, Mrs. Coleman, Rochester High, Mr. Gold, and Stony Creek, Ms. Majask. Really appreciate them being part of our team. And on that note, I do think all teachers are heroes. All of our teachers are heroes. I've heard from many teachers these past few weeks, and when I communicate with them and respond back, one of the first things I say is, on behalf of the board, we think you're all heroes. And I do really feel strongly about that. Thanks to the administration for all of the presentations and information tonight. And announcements. February 22nd is our next gathering, so that'll be a work session at 7 p.m. Next week is our midwinter break, as a reminder, and the 17th is the PTA event that Debbie mentioned. March 8th is our next regular Board of Education meeting at 7 p.m. and we have a work session the 22nd at 7 p.m. And just one final thing I wanted to mention, I've had a lot of people reach out. I think a lot of board members have, asking how Dr. Shaner's doing, and we really appreciate all of the outreach. I pass all the thoughts on to him. So I've talked to Dr. Shaner probably every day, at least once a day for the last couple weeks. I think most board members have. A couple of us have seen him personally. He's visited some schools, and he appreciates the support. We can't wait to have him back at our meetings someday soon when he's ready. So more on that to come. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn the meeting at 9:41 p.m. Moved by Barb, seconded by Michelle. All those in favor, please unmute and say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you.
Thank you all.